The reason that the reason that something is being brought in or purchased from overseas is because it can be made more affordably there.
That's a different word.
No, it's not. In economics, that's literally the same thing.
So slave labor is more efficient in China.
Slave labor is immoral.
Hell yeah.
So,
but we buy it. That's what free trade gets us. We get
China is a different situation than
Bangladesh,
most of our free
Indonesia,
trade.
insert Southeast Asian country that they're working for pennies on the dollar.
That is not the same thing as slave labor. Low wages and slaves are very different.
Wait, hold on. Tell the Foxconn employees who are marching off the rooftop in mass suicide they weren't slaves.
Where?
At Foxconn in China, they put catching nets because they were en masse lining up and walking off to commit mass suicide. Tell me that's
terrible.
not slavery.
I don't know. I don't know
that's
about
free
it.
trade because we have no regulations over there. And Apple and these other computer manufacturers says we don't care if the employees are 16 people jammed in a 10 by 10 room to the point they can't quit. So they go up on top of the building, line up, and just walk off to die.
So
that's
then
free trade.
we should restrict trade with slave labor, but not make everything in America.
So you're saying that we should do trade with those who have the same moral values as us?
Well, not the same moral values.
Close
as
enough.
us,
Close
but
enough.
There should obviously. I don't think
It's
anybody.
not free trade.
When we talk about free trade versus protectionism, it's a spectrum, and even the most diehard economists who advocate for free trade have always acknowledged there are certain narrow sub-exceptions where some protection can be appropriate.
So the things that I am upset about right now, you agree are actually bad.
Well, I don't think I agree about the scope of some of the things you're saying. No,
like people in
or
China
that free trade is all bad. Obviously, I think slave labor is bad.
You think it is efficient that
many things can be made elsewhere in the world much more efficiently than in America.
It is efficient to have a low-skilled, low-wage worker in a foreign country do the job instead of an American.
Yes.
And so what happens in 10 years when the industry no longer exists in America?
You don't need it. Not every industry has to exist in America.
So what happened during COVID when we didn't have vitamin C or PPE?
Well, that's the problem with allowing global supply chains to be shut down. Governments across the world shut down supply chains and economies. That was the problem.
That will happen.
It shouldn't happen.
But we live in a world sometimes you got to lock your door.
So let me ask you.
Sometimes you can't go to the grocery store.
Why?
Should we have emergency food at our houses? The answer is yes, because sometimes the road there's a road impasse.
Yes, and that's why there are.
Give the plug. I don't know. You have a.
We rarely do.
It's like sometimes you need it, and you can get it now. Promo code TeamCool. I
I
have some, by the way. I do have some. He does make a point. All I wanted to say, real fast, with a free trade, I kind of want to know something from you. You're about to explain something, but I feel like, again, what I was saying about redefining terms is, I think regardless of what free trade has been defined as, I would like to know something from you directly. I want to know Tim, and I want to know Phil too, right? So when we're talking about free trade, I do think that this is a very, very important topic because this does fuel a lot of the other sub-arguments from the H-1B, H-1As, right? Whether you're talking about the medical field or other high-skilled with the B. This does talk about student visas, the idea of bringing in potentially new engineers and people who are pedigreed into your economy. This does talk about, temporary field workers and Donald Trump. Who will clean your toilet, Donald Trump, if the Mexicans aren't here? Exactly. You never answered that one, buddy. I think this does answer a lot of questions on to what extent do we allow trade to be free in terms of unrestricted, and is free trade, how important is that to the ethos of our nation, right? How important is having a big economy? Well, that's what I want to know, because I think it would matter, right? Because to some people, it's like you would rather be like Switzerland with a smaller economy, smaller military, more internalized, more nativist protection, keep your culture, everybody's armed, and you want to keep the homogeneity of your ethnic, native population. So that's more important.
I don't care at all about the homogeneity of our ethnic population.
Well, I wouldn't expect that you would, but I'm saying obviously Switzerland does, which is why they don't even, haven't even particularly got involved in the other wars. They've decided to hold the money and take a different strategy than having a large army. They're also impenetrable, unlike most girls in 2025. But the thing is that Switzerland is where it's at. So this is taking the U.S. We are the global leader. We are the ultimate person. What importance is free? What is free trade to you, and what is the importance of it? Because that's where we're not lining up. Because you even said the homogeneity. It's like I won't get into my idea. You know where I stand on this. It's like keeping the ethnic makeup of America what it is and not letting white replacement happen is huge. And this free trade idea is fueling that.
Let's talk about that.
I want to hear you. But what is this? I just want to know how important is free trade to you, and what factors does it play in the identity of our country? Because
It's extremely important because part of the identity of our country is that we're a global economic superpower, that we're one of the wealthiest nations, the wealthiest large and advanced nation in the globe, and we've gotten there in part because of free trade. But let's talk about what you just said, because I think all of these issues, trade, immigration, culture, I will say this, culture is the strongest argument against free trade. There are no good economic arguments against free trade. There are some narrow national security arguments against free trade in certain areas. And then there is a cultural problem when it comes to free immigration. I'm sorry, more so than free trade. But the reason that you mentioned Dearborn, Michigan, which I want to go back to, Tim, that's a problem with a specific culture, frankly, Islamic cultures, that I don't think we should have more mass Muslim immigration into the United States. But I do think we should have far more hardworking, industrious people from India, from South America, who want to come here and work hard and contribute and love America.
This is a pressure system where we are bringing in people with very different cultural values, and that's going to fundamentally alter the unquantifiable things of this country that we want to pass on to the next generation. Thanks for watching this clip from the Culture War podcast. We're live every Friday, 10 a.m. to noon, so subscribe and come hang out.